Following my promise, I'm going to do top 10 best episodes of an adult show, and today I'm going to do the top 10 best episodes of The IT Crowd, which is one of my favourite comedy shows of all time. Number 10, The Dinner Party. And this episode just has such a great setup of how, obviously Jen does not want them to invite Moss, Roy, and Richmond to her flat. But in the end, she has to because three people drop out. But I love how, the way they behave, she wants them to be normal, but, Moss asks stupid questions like, do you think you'd die if you drank wee? I don't know, but it's a bloody good question. Just so many great moments about how Roy is when he's trying to figure out whether the woman who the supermodel is still pretty or not. How Moss is being harassed by Sarah Hadland, and Richmond is someone who's a different personality. I mean, the annoying one. But the Peter File bit was just so well done. It was just the whole timing of the chemistry, how everyone at the party has is just really funny. Number 9, Moss and the German. This is the episode that gave us the amazing piracy ad. Yeah, I don't even need to say it. We all know what it is. I just thought, the way that the misunderstanding of how the German Johann wants to eat Moss, it becomes clear what he wants, but he doesn't seem evil. He just seems like a perfectly reasonable guy, and you kind of feel bad for him for, not being able to eat Moss. And then it's just how Roy says, "Oh, tell him he can eat me," and how in the end they get in trouble not for the cannibal, but for the pirated video, and how Roy keeps on trying to watch the film without being spoiled. Like when he goes to Douglas's house to watch it, and then he keeps on making guesses. There's just so many great moments in this episode. Although I'm not overly keen on the whole subplot about Jen and the smoking, but the rest of it was just so amazing. Number 8, The Haunting of Bill Kraus. I mean, the subplot wasn't amazing, how, Roy and the whole Judy mix up, but I think it was just so funny how, everyone thought Jen was dead, but the Bill Kraus, played by Adam Buxton, he's told everyone that he was the last person to sleep with her, and Moss goes, because she's dead. And there's there's a funeral for her because everyone thinks she's dead. But then all the sort of different moments, you can see it from Bill's perspective, the phone call, the head, and then you can just see the terrifying moment when she just goes up to his house. It's stop telling everyone I slept with you, you bastard. That was just so funny. Number 7 is Calamity Gen. I mean, there are just so many different plots during this episode, but they're all really good. The whole stress bit when Roy steals the stress machine, and then the guy who presents the stress machine gets really angry with him, and then Jen wants the shoes, and it ends up crippling her feet, which does look pretty horrible. But it's just so funny when she jumps on the Japanese guy's feet, but they didn't realize how he's an important executive. And of course, who can forget the whole 0118999 bit. And there's just so many quotable moments from it, especially with when Moss sees the fire, and it's oh, 4, I mean 5, I mean fire. Number 6 is The Internet Is Coming, the finale of the show. I think it's quite funny when there's the little man in the coffee shop, and then how Jen likes the guy, but then he sees Roy, he draws a picture of her with a beard, and how she pours coffee on the homeless woman, and even the plot of Douglas being in Secret Millionaire, but he keeps on saying that he's in Secret Millionaire. Also, I really like the bit with Moss and how his board game show on it. Yeah, I mean, it's not like I don't doesn't really feel like a finale. It was still an enjoyable episode, but it's not sort of a finale bit. But I mean, there are as many, even another great moment when the whole pepper spray scene was just so funny how they don't think of it, and then Moss is just like, oh, remember to add the water. And at the funeral, and he looked when Roy's like too excited to go to the funeral. Number 5 is the final countdown. I mean, also I like the subplot about Roy meeting the highly unlikable Alistair and trying to explain how I am not a window cleaner. But this is definitely one of the coolest episodes about how Moss ends up in this kind of weird underground organization where they just practice countdown. It just seems really dangerous. They do street countdown, and -1 is like is just a brilliant antagonist for this episode. And of course the whole Tenettenba, and one of the best quotes, like, I came here to drink milk and kick ass, and I've just finished my milk. Number 4, Renham versus Renham. I mean, this is like the only episode that's mostly Douglas focused. I mean, now unlike the fairly sort of innocent other characters, he's like the crazy one who likes sleeping with like lots of women and all that. But it's just like really funny when his wife returns, just as he's like trying to chat up another woman, and how suddenly he's like, I'd like to divorce my wife. And there's just like the court scenes, like you'd think it'd be boring, but it is just really funny how like each moment about how Moss, like his mum sued him, and Roy, he was kissed on his arse, and Richmond, the whole goth to boss scene, and how, like, Douglas just doesn't take it seriously at all. Like, he spends all this time making the suit, and he's just like trying to make an impression of like a court he saw into. He's like, your name is Morris Moss, is it not? And there's like a happy ending, well, kind of, about how in the end Victoria only wants 70 million from him, and Douglas is like, hurrah! Number 3, Italian for Beginners. Oh, it just really well shows Jen's jealousy of Linda and how she wants to be the best woman by pretending she can speak Italian with the help of Moss on a computer. It looks like everything is going well until suddenly, she can't get the password for it, and then Moss finds himself inside a claw machine, and I love how you've just forgotten about him at the end when he's stuck there all night. I mean, Jen is really put on the spot there, and in the situation, what she does is just so funny, like pretending to speak Italian by saying like random Italian words and making things sound Italian, like the whole I wish I were my welcome ministry, all that. Also, like the subplot of Roy trying to discover what happened about his girlfriend, how her parents have died. It was quite sort of frustrating at the start, like, because you weren't able to talk about it again, and he really wanted to find out how her parents had died at a fire at a sea parks, and like how Moss describes like, oh, it's the best splashiest place in the entire world, and how like he's seen the Sea Lion show 3 times a day for 2 weeks. I mean, this episode is just full to the brim with quotable moments and just amazing subplots and stories. Number 2 is Return of the Golden Child. Sorry, a hiccup there. Return of the Golden Child. Oh, at the start, Denham kills himself after hearing about irregularities in the pension fund. But also how Roy learns when he's going to die based on the site that Moss looks at, but then he realizes that is going to become quite a problem later when it's during the funeral after Jen tries to tell him not to think about death. Yeah, and how the supposed new boss doesn't like the IT department, and he's going to give them one last chance, but then another chance, and then and then the final chance. Yes. So then the first one after they've got Roy's got the really powerful vibrate on the phone. It's like it'll blow my cock off. It's like did someone else die? But then the fun doesn't really start until the actual funeral occurs, and then it looks as if after he has a panic attack whilst he thinks he's having a heart attack, it all looks like the IT department is gonna be gone. But until then, Douglas returns with the whole father bit, and he essentially saves the day. It was just a really sort of happy ending in a very unexpected way. Just his entrance was so good about how even how Denham even predicted it. It's like, if you're watching this video, it means my son has come in and made an entrance. There are so many honourable mentions that it was really hard to think of just 3, because there are only 25 episodes. So eventually I was able to narrow it down to Friend Face, Calendar Geeks, and Men Without Women. And the number 1 best episode of the IT crowd is The Work Outing. So a man called Philip tries to ask Jen out on a date, but then Roy and Moss both intercept, and they'll, I'd be delighted. As how just you weren't invited. How it goes from being a date to a work outing. It's they all think that Philip is gay, but then the whole kind of gay musical kind of cements the idea, and the songs in it are something else. I'm not gonna sing them because someone could take that out of context and have me singing Willies, Willies, I love Willies. Oh, whoops, and all that. But I think the real fun starts when Roy goes into the toilet, and the disabled toilet, and he accidentally pulls the cord, and he's like, I'm disabled, and he keeps it up throughout the rest of the episode. And he's almost crying when he has to say to Laura Knightley how he's both gay and disabled. There are just so many great moments, and especially the comedic timing of the moment when you basically forgot about Moss, and then Jen goes to the bar and is like, excuse me, and then Moss is like, yes, miss. Just that moment is just one of the funniest ever, because you're just not expecting it, and it's just so well done. And even when the other guy, I think his name was Jerome, pulls the other guy off the wheelchair because he just thinks it's a joke that the Irish are lazy. And at the end, when Roy gets trapped in a bus full of other gay disabled people all the way up to Manchester. And just even the conclusion of Moss, how he says he'd never been to the theatre because he'd never had any interest, but then at the end he seems to love it. It's like, the theatre. And yeah, it turns out in the end Philip is actually gay, but Jen's just like, taxi at the end. But all those reasons are why, in my opinion, that The Work Outing is the number 1 best IT crowd episode.